And you see, to prove to you this, here's the way life really works. You see, a lot of people come to Christianity, you know why? Because there's a tragedy, because there's something that happens in their life that causes them great brokenness and absolutely despair. And so here's the way this works. Somebody who's totally never believed in Jesus Christ, has no interest, very skeptical, very unconvinced about Christianity, what happens is something bad happens to them. There's a car crash, or somebody gets sick, or a job loss, or some catastrophe happens, and then the person who's always saying, well, what about those miracles? I don't believe in that fishes and loaves and walking on water and all those things, and I just don't believe in this, and what about creation, and what about the 7 days, and what about how big the dinosaurs were on the ark, and all these kinds of things that we can't get over. See, what happens is that person is now kneeling at their bed saying, oh God, I'm not sure if you exist, but if you do, please help me. Please come help my family. Please, God, because they come to a place where they realize, I can't get over the addiction, and I'm pretty sure I'm addicted, and I need somebody on the outside of me to help me. Or there's a real sickness here, and my kid is about to die. And Lord, if you are there, if you exist, please help. And so what happens is tragedy will bring somebody to Jesus, will bring somebody to Christianity quicker than anything else, like a magnet. And the other thing that happens is this, is sometimes people come to Christianity through like reading the Bible, right? And so maybe your spouse is kind of nagged you, I really want you to read the Bible. Okay. Maybe your parents pay you to read the Bible, or your boss is like, you really need to read the Bible. That'll help you with all of your relationships here at the workplace. And you're like, okay, I'm going to be on the boss's good side, so I read the Bible. And you start reading it, and you may not even believe it's valid. It's not true to you. It's not real. There's all kinds of inconsistencies. You start reading it, and something amazing happens. Because you start reading, and you're like, man, I really believe this stuff. This stuff really makes sense. It really works in life. And so that's the way people really come to Christianity, because what happens is all these things that were ballooned up, all these things that were big, shrink down because something else happens. It becomes personal to us. And you see, you have made decisions towards something in your life and shrunk down obstacles to that thing before. And you may not even know it. Some of you today, and you're like, well, I'm not going to shrink down my obstacles, or I don't think the person who I'm interacting with is going to shrink down their obstacles and trust in Jesus Christ anyway. And I said, well, you do that in daily life anyway. Guys, let me say this. How many of us, can you think back to when you were single, and maybe some of you are single now, and you had all kinds of objections or obstacles to getting married, right? I mean, can you remember that when you were single and somebody said, well, I think you need to get married. And you're like, man, I object. And you had all this list of things, of reasons why you didn't want to get married, right? And so you might say this. You might say, hey, I don't want to get married because it's going to take away my freedom. My freedom shrinks down big time. That's a valid concern. Or second, through that one. Or it's too expensive. I mean, I can barely eat myself, let alone pay for me and my wife to eat, right? Or there's a lot of married couples out there that are very unhappy. Or maybe you looked at your parents, you said, man, I don't want to be like them. I don't want to have their marriage, or I don't want to have these people's marriage. I'd rather be single than stuck. I'd rather be wishing I was married than being miserable and being married. And for some of you, I'm just too young. I'm just too young. I'll wait till I'm 25 or 35 or 45 or 55. And so what happens is you had all this list of objections. But how did you move from being single to being married? You know what happened? Something happened where marriage was no longer a category. It was no longer a mental construct. It was no longer a hypothetical. You moved from the idea of marriage to really a person, right? And so did you think through all those things? No, you didn't. No, you know what happened to you, to most of us? You didn't sit there and you didn't say, hey, I'm going to lose my freedom. Okay, well, that's okay. And my commitment, well, you know what? I'm really not afraid of commitment. I commit to other things in my life. I'm really concerned about the fear of the unknown. Well, there's a lot of unknown in life. Well, that took care of my commitment. Check. Or the expense, well, I saved up till I was, I don't know, like 55. And then I found somebody who was minimally very, very, very low maintenance, kind of outside of the city in a small town. And I found that check. And then I surrounded myself with 10 very functional good married people who had good marriages. Okay, check. Well, young, I mean, I waited till I was 55. I think that's enough, kind of thing. And so none of us did that. Why? What happened? Because it no longer was the idea of marriage. It was, I'm going to marry her. It was no longer, what about women? It was the one over there by the counter. It was no longer the hypothetical of the commitment. It was, I'm going to be with her always, see? And you went from something theoretical and mental to something personal.